what hasn't changed is Google's still king, right? This month alone, Google has got more searches than in the history of its existence on a daily basis, right? So the market's there, the searches are there. And while AI tools are presenting a new avenue and channel for searches, Google's overwhelming presence and usership base continues to be the big source of traffic for brands, businesses, companies.
Welcome to Contrary to Popular Opinion, a podcast hosted by Vujade Digital. In each episode, we bring you provocative topics and novel perspectives around leadership, business, and marketing that defy the norms because exponential growth demands unconventional thinking and visionary action. So open your mind and let's get into this week's episode.
Hey everyone, Kelly McGuire with Vujade Digital. Excited to talk to today's guest.
Hey everybody, it's Todd, Kelly's partner, and wow, we have a 3-part episode coming up with a subject matter expert named Tanner. Tanner's on our team now, and Tanner's got a lot to say about what's going on in the world of search engine optimization. Before you say it's dead, hold that thought. Tanner will opine on why it's not and how it's evolving. That's what we're going to get into. So today's show is episode 1 of a 3-part series, which will go through a variety of different sort of topical things and takeaways. So today's episode is SEO isn't dead, it's just evolving. Our next episode will be what's changing with Google and AI and the new search landscapes. And then after that, we'll talk about what does it take to win in this new AI, SEO, GEO, LLM, AEO, 5 other acronym O's coming up. We'll talk about all those things. Those will be in the next shows. Today, we're going to talk about, is SEO dead? Tanner says no. So Tanner, I'm just going to kick you off with this. If you had 60 seconds right now to say what's changed, what would you say?
I'd say Google's really good at doing what Google wants to do, and that's providing the best result for the search at hand, okay? It's been its core principle the entire time of its existence, and now, better than ever, they're achieving their goal of keeping people searching, keeping people present on the domain, and providing relevant informational queries. So with those 3 principles in mind, we do have to try to track the trajectory of Google to realize, how have we gotten here today? And, it's been a bit of a long haul over the last 5 years. And I started working in SEO in 2019, and now we're already at 2016. And, even in my tenure as a organic marketer, I've just seen a dramatic change within the search engine.
Well, let's start there. So the evolution of search. So you started 6-7 years ago in this space. It's probably not changed more rapidly or radically ever in the history since this last 6 or 7 years. So take us back the last, I don't know, pick 3-5 years, wherever you started to see things change, and what's happened? What have you seen change in these last few years that's fundamentally, sort of shifting everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to kind of just start with the, pre-2020 phase, right? Essentially, you had Google kind of ramping up, Google expanding its user base, starting to introduce more ads and monetize the SERP. But it was still kind of the traditional Google site links, right? The blue links that we're all familiar with. And there would be an ad or 2 at the top of the page, but, the robustness of the experience was still, in its more rudimentary form. But since 2020, and when there was a huge pivot to digital with the pandemic and everything, we've just seen an explosion in the number of features within the SERP, the number of types of results, as well as the increased monetization of the SERP, right? Google wants you to search, Google wants to provide the best answer possible, and Google wants to make sure it can serve ads within that space. So basically, over time, they've improved the user experience to such an extent where their presentation of results has included the answers, right, that people are searching for without clicking through to the website, with different types of products and services that you can find through ads. And essentially, it's just been this constant evolution towards keeping you on Google, keeping you searching, and then providing the most relevant results. That was kind of the last 5 years, but since the broader adoption of AI results, rolling out AI overviews, integrating the type of Q&A format that we're more used to seeing with large language models, the game's yet again changed, right? One classic example I like to point to is how in the last year of rolling out AI overviews, you'll see ads at one position and AI at the other, and then integrated. And essentially, we're in this, experiment for how do we balance the presentation of different results with the ever-changing SERP. For companies to find that balance and really understand what type of keywords they want to perform for, what type of queries they want to show up for, it's really just going to take a new approach to trying to be present more holistically.
Yeah, it's certainly changed. Kelly, has your use of Google when you search for something, because I know you don't even always use Google, we're going to ask a bigger fundamental question or existential question about that later. Has it changed a lot?
It has, yeah. I just because of the way that I find myself engaging with AI in my day-to-day work life.
Would you say your use of Google has dropped dramatically?
No, I mean, I use Google as much, but again, the purpose in which I use it, which is actually one of the questions I wanted to ask Tanner is, because Tanner, you started out by saying, the purpose of Google is to give search results and to keep people to give them the right answer and to kind of keep them on property. And I believe that to be true, but it's interesting because I see the purpose of search results, pure search results, and AI answers as potentially different objectives, right? Because for me, if I look at search results, that is a zero sum. I want something that solves this problem, right? I'm looking for the best burger near me, or I'm looking for a veterinarian that's open or something like that. That is a very much here's solutions to your very clear problem, versus the AI answers are a little bit more contextually relevant. It's a little bit sourced. It's a little bit, are you looking for a highly rated veterinarian? Are you looking for a unique burger? There's more nuance in the engagement. And I say that distinction because when you ask me, Todd, if my use of Google has changed, my amount of use, I don't think has changed that much, but the way and the priority in which I go through the answers is different. If I am exploratory, if I'm thinking of a subject and I want answers, I don't know where I'm going, the AI answers are a lot more helpful to me because I'm looking at, I don't really know exactly what I want, but I'm exploring a subject and maybe that uncovers things I wasn't thinking about. And I love the AI answers for that. If I'm literally just, I want a burger near me or the best deal or what are the hours that something's open, I really want those answers quickly and it's in there. And I think that distinction is very critical in the behavior has shifted more in the last couple of years than I think search behavior has ever shifted before. And I think that is what anchors a lot of this conversation is the adaptation to how people expect and engage with Google is something that I don't know that everyone's keeping up with. I think people are first asking the question, am I maintaining my traffic and my business results, which I totally understand why. But I think that might be blinding to the bigger, how is the actual usership and behavior shifting and how am I adapting my business and what I can extract from the business accordingly? I think that's the new horizon that offers a lot more interesting opportunity.
Well, let's go to this, Tanner. What hasn't changed? We're talking about all the change, right? And everybody's talking about AI this and AI that. So, there's all this disruption in what we're talking about. Are there things that haven't changed within foundational principles of being an organic marketer, having to contend with SEO, with content, with the back end sort of on-page technical things, the off-page things? Are there core things that haven't changed?
Yeah, I mean, kind of just like breaking down what we're seeing in the industry, what hasn't changed is Google's still king, right? This month alone, Google has got more searches than in the history of its existence on a daily basis, right? So the market's there, the searchers are there. And while AI tools are presenting a new avenue and channel for searches, Google's overwhelming presence and usership base continues to be the big source of traffic for brands, businesses, companies. And making sure that you can follow those guardrails is going to be how you're able to monetize that organic interest that's out there, right? So what hasn't changed are two things. The technical side, your site needs to be set up in compliance with search engine crawlers and scrapers and bots. Period. If something is broken on your website, you will not be eligible to rank in those traffic driving positions that you previously were able to capture traffic from. So that's the foundation of it, right? It's got to be readable for bots. On the content side and what you present to search engines, it is essential to remember that if you're not answering the intent of the search that is going into the bar, you will also not appear. Competition's increased, ad space has increased, monetization of the SERP has increased, and AI overviews have presented this new curveball. But those two fundamental questions have to be answered if you are still looking to leverage organic search as a scalable channel, which it fundamentally still is.
Let me ask you a question on that, because you said something there that's really interesting to me, because I fully believe that Google's the activity is certainly up and as much as it ever was. But I would say nearly every
I don't believe that, for the record. I'm shocked by that.
But let's hold it true or not. Maybe that'll be part of the answer to my follow-up question then, is because I would say almost every single client that we talk to or get exposed to or look at, it's anywhere from 30 to 80% down on organic traffic hitting their site in terms of what's in there. And I find that really interesting because, well, you say that Google's objective is to deliver the best result, which I totally understand that. I would say equal, if not arguably more, is their objective is to make money. And so if if their organic traffic to most sites is down by that much, what does that say about the way that the reaction of the people who are losing that organic source and that opportunity to convert into monetization, because that's also everyone else's business element? It's almost this weird existential question of like, are you serving the people in their interest? Or are you trying to make money off of it? And that balance between that. But if the activity on Google is flat or up, or maybe not down 30 to 80%, but organic opportunity on the businesses relying on it are, what's happening there? Is that people just getting the AI results and not needing to go to a search result, and therefore the traffic excel? So the Google activity hasn't gone down, but the traffic redirect of Google has dropped precipitously, would kind of be my hypothesis.
Wouldn't that correlate, Kelly, to what you just said, the behavioral difference in search types are? If you're not looking for a link to click on because you know exactly what you're looking for, and you're looking more exploratory and you're using the AI summary, that would mean less clicks to a client website or to a website is causing that drop.
I guess that's what I'm looking to validate, right? Like the idea that Google activity isn't down, but most people who rely on Google are seeing 30 to 80% down. There's something in the middle there.
Yeah, the middle is click-through rate, right? So we are seeing click-through rate slow down due to a increased monetization of the SERP and AI overviews providing the answers to those questions, right? And each one of those things can be broke down into specific points, but focusing more on the latter, the AI overviews. What's becoming difficult is aligning search intent with what you're offering on your website, right? So if you are able to show up in an informational query that we would consider to be a non-conversion related search, right? Someone researching a topic or some sort of subject, right, isn't intent on making a purchase inherently. But the trick is now evolving around, okay, well, how can you show up in an informational query with something that introduces someone into your marketing funnel, right? So that's really what it is. And that is predicated on having really good content, right? Being able to answer that question that they're asking, then to introduce them to your funnel and then get a conversion out of it, right? So it is upping the task for marketers and brands, because they have to be clear in what they're offering, and they have to have a specific angle, and they have to have a selling point that resonates for someone who's looking for an informational query. Whereas in the past, it was just easier to rank, easier to get clicks, right? Now there is more effort that needs to go into the process.
Interesting, because for me, it really brings up this big argument where we're constantly in this battle of AI is supposed to make everything so much easier and cheaper and faster. And then there's the other side of it, but it's actually making so many things more fragmented and changing behaviors. And the chase on how to adapt to it feels like it requires a lot more strategy and thinking and creativity to adapt within the systems. And the example I have to that is, if the opportunity for, I'll use your term, the intent based searches, right? The searches that occur where I am intending to make a decision or a purchase or go to something, if that is shrinking, your need to fight for when that happens, not losing the opportunity, the offensive, defensive that I've always said in search, right? There's the offensive of I need to go out and grab what's there. There's the defensive of not losing what I would have maybe already gotten. Usually that's applied to brand terms, if you will. But I'm saying that to say is, now we get into this a conversation we've had, Todd, which is how much of the investment needs to be done in the pre-work of branding or anchoring of a selection or things like that. Because by the time you get to the person who's doing that intent-based search, that's not the first time you want to be raising your hand saying, choose me. You want to have already planted some seeds and had some brand recognition, some website name recognition, some things that make it more likely that that person is in fact going to select you in the sea of options, because you're fighting in a sort of shrunken pool. And so that now you go, and then you go the sequential layer, right? Search has always been the most last touch ready to convert. Maybe that's not where the budgets need to go. Maybe you need to be fighting in the, I'm in the exploratory phase, but I need to show up there, or I need to plant those seeds type of things. And now you're fighting more campaigns, more KPI outcomes, more expected journeys. It's an interesting thing when you think about something as simple as I search a term, I get a result. And what we used to operate, I feel like that's getting pretty deeply broken.
Tanner, you got a response to that, or do you want to jump to the next section?
Yeah, it is evolving, and the behavior is going where the tools are taking them, right? And I think that if we just zoom in a little bit more on, AI, or doing an AI search through Google, there are clarifying questions that are asked of someone who's researching a different product, right? There are elements that appear within refinements for different searches. There are different questions that the bots ask you. And each one of those questions or queries is serving the intent of the search to make sure that the result is as specific as possible. And that's why companies and brands need to be more coherent in what they present on their website, what their indexable footprint is, in order to make sure that they can appear and target those different touch points along the funnel that people are being thrown into by Google's AI tools and searches.
All right, we're gonna do a little fun thing right now, and then we'll jump to the next section. So I got a couple of these for you, Tanner. We're gonna do a couple of rapid fires. So this one's just true or false. So just answer true or false. That's the only answer you can give, nothing else. Kelly,
Can I argue with him if I don't like his answer?
I was gonna say, Kelly, you have to answer true or false as well, but you can argue with them. So this is
I'll only weigh in if I have a difference of opinion. If I agree, I'll keep quiet.
oh, this is rapid fire for you both. So,
Likewise.
traditional SEO is dead.
False.
AI is going to replace Google.
False. Google's going to evolve into AI search.
Got it. Blogs don't matter anymore.
False.
Keywords don't matter anymore.
Remarkably false.
Backlinks don't matter anymore.
Also false.
ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, they're all going to replace search as we know it.
They're going to change search as we know it.
Yeah, I would say disrupt. Yeah.
Disrupt. You still need thousands of pages of content to show up.
Also false. Specificity is what you need.
And well, so would you clarify that, Tanner, with, I think the content for a lot longer. I think the conversations matter now, right? This is why Reddit is so important. This is why social mentions and so forth. So I think it's the real-time relevance of conversation that is happening as a signal versus just hard crawled content. That's what I think is changing.
I would totally agree with you, Kelly. Yeah, I think you're spot on. There's been a decentralization of information about different topics, right? As AI tries to present unbiased results, or the large language model tries to present unbiased results, their sources of information are going to come from different places, right? Outside of brands' ability to control those. Now, in order to research that, you have to see what AI is pulling information from, and then it kind of work backwards from there. So totally agree.
So the biggest behavioral change I think we can all agree on is that, so when prior to LLMs, there was only one place to find answers for the most part, right? And that was Google. If you needed an answer, you Googled it, and you found it either on Google or whatever website Google pointed you to, you found your answer. Now, you arguably don't theoretically or technically need Google. So Kelly, I guess this is more for the long form answer, not the short form, quick answer to like business hours, or I know the pair of shoes I want to buy. I'm just looking for, the shopping deal. If that were not the case, do we believe that if people are just using the internet to find answers to things for the most part, does Google sort of fall by the wayside, given it's providing its own AI answers, right? But I know anecdotally, as a proof point here, myself, my 20-year-old daughter, my wife, I probably use ChatGPT or Claude 50% of the time when I'm looking for an answer for something, and I don't use Google anymore. Do we think that's universally true?
I think Google's probably lost its dominant default, nothing else challenges it answer that it lived off of for so very, very long, right? To your point, it was the default. I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm going to search for it. And there was very little things to challenge whether or not that was the way you went hunting. I do think that there is a diversification. I still think Google will be the dominant element once you know what you want. But I think that people will still engage in discovery, conversation, curiosity in other places that they never had before. So yes, I think that the default, there's nothing else to challenge it, has been eroded quite considerably.
So here was my killer question before: is Google too big to fail?
I want to go back on the rapid fire one that might prompt you to go deeper, Tanner, but I want you to answer this. My question for you on the rapid fire yes or no is the idea of gray or black hat or gamification of controlling the answer, right? Because again, if you go back to Google, the idea of Google is give the best answer to what someone's intent is. Everyone's SEO work was make me the best answer, whether that's true or not. And I used all the backlinking and all the gamification and the gray hat and the black hat. Is that dead, or is that evolved, or what is that world of controlling that look like?
That's our next topic, Kelly. Generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization. Let's go there. Tanner, let's talk about what is it? What's different about it? Is there a gray hat version of that, like there has been for so many years of SEO? Is there a gray hat version of GEO or AEO? Is it about ranking pages? Is it about making sure there's other types of content out there? Tell us what it is, what it isn't, and is it hackable?
People are definitely trying. I mean, you can definitely see different tactics being deployed out there, testing websites. There are attempts. I myself am strictly a white hat marketer. But what I can say, and more interestingly enough, is the rate of Google algorithm updates has changed pretty notably over the last couple of years, especially over the course of my career. There'd be maybe one or two big updates a year. And it's almost as if in 2026, we're seeing a Google core algo update every month. A lot of those are spam updates. So while people are more creative in what they try to do to, hack the results, ability to adapt and find those types of tactics is increasing. And we see that directly in their algo update log, because the pace of which it's incredible how quickly they're able to kind of change things or update the game, if you will, to make sure that it is fair for businesses.
Okay. If that's the case, what would be an example of it? Have you seen like examples of hacks? Like Kelly's asking, like what would be a version of a gray hat sort of effort or activity around generative engine optimization? Because I don't even know yet if people fully, brands, organic marketers, people like you, do you really think you have a full grasp yet on what is shaping and impacting the GEO, AEO answers? I hear a lot about Reddit.
You'd have to talk to the Yeah, I would love to ask a Google engineer that question. We can only infer what we see in the day to day. But one great example of this kind of, gray hat sort of interesting change that I've been tracking over the last couple of years is just the sources of information for different result types. Recently in the last 24 months, we've seen a surge in Reddit visibility, right? And that has kind of come up, especially within the review space or the research space. We saw forums integrated as a SERP feature that is taking up more real estate within results. However, over time, it seems that now YouTube and other video-based platforms are starting to replace Reddit's space. YouTube is owned by Google, having more, indexable content. Yeah, my theory on this is Google and Reddit worked together on training LLMs, right? And then Google was able to use its YouTube data to train large language models. So you can almost see which way the algorithm is diverting people. And I think it's in the benefit of the company to provide the best result possible.
Okay. Kelly, I know you got a couple more things as we sort of steer towards the end of the episode here and get a lead in out there for the next one. I've got one more lightning round to go through, but why don't you get through your two things and then we'll do the lightning round last.
Okay. So my two things are, the first one is along the lines of what we just talked about. Tanner, do you see or do you have any thoughts around the evolution of SEO and AEO, where traditionally, because Google was dominant, you really were trying to look at and learn the best practices for sort of one destination, right? What does Google respond to? What do they like? Backlinks. They like conversations. They like certain structures in blog data and all of that. And that's how I rank better in Google. And if I achieve that, I win. Does it change at all where you may need to be thinking about what multiple different outlets care about and pick up and care about? Like, you may not be writing one blog that just Google cares about. Maybe you do need it to answer different, ChatGPT or these other things. Like, how does that change the ability of trying to serve multiple masters with your strategies and your gamification, your white hat, whatever it is, and how it impacts the results in multiple engines versus just the historical, if as long as I serve Google, I'm doing my job element?
It is a really interesting question. And you can see that there are different result types across different models and across different engines, right? So comparing results from Claude or Gemini or Perplexity or Copilot, all are different, right? And it is making it more difficult to track how you're supposed to approach each or which is most important to you. However, it does seem, to me at least, that within the LLM industry, once a model is released, others have access to it and are able to kind of figure out what they're doing within their, new result types. So that means that there is a little bit of a convergence between different models. So I don't think we have to worry as much about the different models and their result types, because I do think that there's a little bit of, a catch-up game going on whenever a new release is put out. So they will eventually, I believe, converge because they learn from each other. I think when looking at different models should be considered is who uses which model, right? So we know that ChatGPT is free, that there's a broader adoption for young people or non-paid users versus Claude or Copilot, which is definitely at the enterprise level, right? Or people at work, right? So thinking about what model or LLM your audience is most likely to use will allow you to know which one to keep an eye on most closely, as opposed to trying to do so many things across different tools.
That's interesting. That's the first time I've thought about different LLMs being used differently by different audiences for different purposes.
So like for people or companies that are on Microsoft Teams, right? They have to use Copilot. So if you're a B2B company, you might want to consider keeping a closer eye on Copilot results as opposed to ChatGPT or Grok.
What's the background or the back end engine of Copilot?
That's a Microsoft.
Is it its own? It's not running on something else?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Microsoft has their own, so it's not Anthropic, OpenAI. Like I think it's their own backbone. Not sure though. Okay, so my very, very last one, I'll let you go into rapid fire, but I think I want to save this one as a cliffhanger for the follow-up episode, but I'm going to kind of tease it out so that I don't forget it when it goes into there. So I'm going to use my analogy of, in my Doctor Strange sort of multiverse, seeing different paths of what could happen. One of the ones that I really think has a high probability, doesn't mean it will happen, absolutely not, but I think it is entirely possible, is, as you mentioned, Google has all these updates and constantly going out with the spam and all of that. And I think that we're in a world where people are using AI to develop and to combat or to address SEO and AEO. And so you have so much of the content being written by AI and so much of the best practices and the tagging and everything being done by AI. And I foresee a potential car crash down the line of that, where eventually Google's like, well, we don't want, we want authenticity behind what we're getting. And I could see a big knocking down of everything that ranked because AI drove it being all of a sudden penalized and almost reset in a world where it's like, if it is obviously AI content, AI driven, then all of a sudden you go back to go, right? It's the sorry game, or it's the chutes and ladders where you go back down. And I'm not saying it will happen, but I can absolutely plausibly see a scenario where you're doing great and all of a sudden you just get crushed because AI decided, well, we don't want all this AI driven stuff being the answer that's in there. And it's something that I thought about not that long ago. I was like, that's really interesting on that. So can answer it now, or we can leave that as a cliffhanger.
No, I think that's awesome to consider. There are whole fields dedicated to make sure that the inputs to AI and large language models are clean and not outputs of other AI, right? So there are different sub-industries within the field that try to account for that issue. But yeah, AI teaching AI is really not what you were hoping for with these broader tools. And I'm, super bullish on human content that is well developed by experts.
But that's not efficient. That's not cheap.
It's not, but doing things the right way usually isn't.
Now let's try to get people to pay for doing things the right way. That's all right. So we'll wrap up. Next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to go a little bit deeper and more specific about the state of search. What are some of the core principles? We're going to talk about zero-click searches, shopping experiences, things that are a little bit more in the gravel of what's going on there. So before we wrap, final thing is, so this is one last lightning round for you, Tanner, and Kelly, you can jump in. These are one word or short answers. Lightning round. Best SEO tool.
Screaming Frog.
Most overrated SEO metric.
Impressions.
Most underrated metric.
Session duration. On-site engagement.
I like that. Biggest ranking myth.
Quantity over quality.
One thing every CEO misunderstands about SEO.
It's scalable and it sets you up for success over a long time horizon.
I have my answer to that one. I'm going to jump in on that one because this is the one that Tanner listens to me every single time we go on the pitch. Is that you can wait, that there's not a time factor to it, right? That if I do it next month or 6 months from now, I'm not going to be further and further behind. I think there's a gross miscalculation that this stuff isn't moving and you're not falling further behind the longer you take to address it.
Agree. Okay, for both of you, Google or ChatGPT?
Google.
I use ChatGPT more. Well, I'm very purpose driven, but I
got to pick one, Google or ChatGPT?
ChatGPT.
All right, 50-50. I think the rest aren't all that exciting of my technical SEO or content, Tanner.
Yeah, both. You can't have one without the other. You got the yin and the yang.
That's good enough for today then. We'll come back with episode number 2 and then episode number 3, which will bring in our paid side of the equation in that conversation with you, Tanner. So you have paid and organic represented in episode number 3. Tanner Zoromski, thank you. You are a subject matter expert of a lot of information in this space, and we're glad to have you here on our team and on our podcast, and we'll do more.
Thanks for the time, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Contrary to Popular Opinion, where we challenge you to think independently, push the limits, and take uncommon action so you can achieve game-changing results in your business and your life. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.